Well, this is it. We've made it. We've finally reached the end of Susan's story and the end of the Asylum challenge. But until we get there, we are unfortunately going to have to spend one more episode with Susan. In order to complete this challenge and end Susan's story, she's going to have to complete the last two milestones of her aspiration. And for this stage, she has to reach level 7 of the fabrication skill, collect from the insect farm 3 times, and create 5 candles. So let's all watch with rapt fascination as the most fascinating character in the asylum does just that. And here we see Susan bonding with the worms, which is something that she seems to be able to do with relative ease. Despite being high maintenance, cuddling up to these slimy worms is coming incredibly naturally to her. Perhaps it's because cuddling up to slimy worms is exactly what Susan's done to get this far in her career. In between working on the points of her aspiration, Susan likes to partake in some of her other hobbies, such as vacuuming the house naked. And she also likes to bond with her worms naked. But again, cuddling up to worms whilst completely naked is something that Susan excels at.
Oh.
And despite making the process of making candles look absolutely painful, Susan had soon made 5 candles, checking off one part of this stage of her aspiration. After a little more time of cuddling with worms and talking to herself, Susan somehow managed to reach level 7 of the fabrication skill, checking off one more point, with only one more step left to do to complete this stage of her aspiration. And finally, when she was ready to collect from the bug farm one more time, Susan completed the 3rd milestone of her aspiration, taking her to the final milestone and taking us to the final stretch of this asylum challenge. For the final milestone of her aspiration, Susan will need to achieve level 10 of the fabrication skill, make 20 candles, and complete 5 gigs as a freelance crafter. And because we enjoy Susan's company so much, we're going to be a little bit more efficient about this, by only accepting freelance gigs that involve making candles. Thus, that will allow us to work on all 3 of these steps at once. And after signing Susan up as a freelancer, we will choose the agent who even includes mentions of candles in their description, because we want to make this as absolutely efficient, quick and painless as possible. We will search for gigs and find the ones that involve making candles. And just like that, Susan is making candles, building her fabrication skill, and completing tasks and jobs as a freelancer. It's very rare that tasks for aspirations line up as smoothly as this, but it's quite a joy that it means this last stage of our Asylum challenge is going to pass quite smoothly. This last stage of Susan's aspiration is much like Susan herself. It involves standing around and kind of having a stupid look on your face and just waiting out the clock. Progress was slow, and despite the fact that Susan is the only inmate remaining in the asylum, she seems to be managing to keep herself in reasonably high spirits. Without the presence of the other inmates to dilute Susan's aura, playing through this has been a little bit challenging, because I'm having to deal with looking at this face. However, once this is done, this challenge will be over, and that's the one thing that's keeping me going. After an extended amount of time of completing her freelance gigs, Susan had finally made 20 candles, checking off one part of this final stage of her aspiration. And although she doesn't have long to go now to complete this aspiration and end this challenge, it's still difficult getting her to focus, because she keeps choosing to get naked and go outside. That said, as she gets naked and goes outside one more time, she has in fact completed her freelance gigs and checked off another part of her aspiration. Now all that's left to do is to max her fabricator skill. And after a lot of work, and frankly a lot of waiting, Susan finally maxed her fabricator skill and completed her aspiration. With this done, she's now free to leave the asylum. All previous inmates have already completed their aspirations and left the asylum, and moved on to Freedom House, and now it's time for Susan to do the same. Completing her aspiration even gave Susan a streak of good luck, which is exactly what she's going to need, because this place, this asylum, this rotten building is now her home. Because even though I freed the other inmates, something in me just can't bring myself to free this one. And it's not like she's struggling on her own. Stuart keeps coming around and trying to flirt with her, and she keeps shooting him down. So, nothing's really changed. I mean, Susan's been here so long. At this point, the asylum's basically home for her, so moving her out felt kind of cruel. And that's the Asylum challenge finished. It's been quite a long run, and it's been a different way of making videos for me. If you've enjoyed it, please let me know, because I could continue this. I do have some ideas for how I could, and I do have a few things set up for it if I was going to. But that being said, I'm going to end the story there for today. And as always, thanks for watching.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.